I have a dream, oh, I have a dream. Red, white, and blue, fly free, fly free. I believe, oh, I believe. Will you dream with me?
Welcome to Changing Times. This is Dawn Blackard.
Lynn Morris.
We are so glad that you joined us today. If you have not liked AMG, Axe Media Group, go up and like them so you can follow us every Wednesday. We're live at 10 a.m. Right here at 4166 West Kearney Street. And today we have a phenomenal guest, a difference maker. We're so excited that he came in today. And we've been asking for referrals if anybody knows of a show that we should do or someone that we should highlight. And Dr. Dominguez came in as a referral from his beautiful daughter. And so we're so glad that he came in today to share this time with us. So Dr. Dominguez is a general surgeon, and he works here in Springfield, Missouri at Cox Hospital, fabulous hospital. And he is specialized in colon and rectal surgeries. But today we're going to talk about him being a difference maker in Haiti. So what happened in Haiti recently, Lynn?
Well, you know what? August 14th, 2021, we had a earthquake over there that was 7.4 magnitude. And it was a very devastating earthquake. Not that they haven't had many over there. They, in fact, hadn't recovered from the last earthquake. And then this one just toppled that one just greatly. And over 2,200 people were killed. Over 12,000 were injured. And the property damage was just astronomical, the type of damage that country has suffered. And Doctor and I were just talking before the show started that on a good day in Haiti, it's not really a real good day. So when you start having these type of catastrophes in a country that has very little to offer, it is really challenging. So
Absolutely.
people like the doctor here and the team that went over, I think that people are going to be very excited to hear what they're doing. And I just want to remind people what you're going to hear today from Dr. Dominguez. I want you to think about wherever you're listening today, whatever the 50 states you're listening into, or even some other country, you be a difference maker like Dr. Dominguez. You be the change that Don's always talking about, be the change. And you can do that. And you may not have to be a doctor. You may not be a doctor, but you could be something that could go over to a country, or even in the United States, we have a lot of mission trips. A lot of people are hurting all over the world. I challenge people to be the difference maker, just like Doctor.
Yeah. Well, Haiti's very near and dear to our family's heart. Back when the earthquake happened in 2010, my brother was assigned with Habitat for Humanity on the rebuild as an architect. And he was in his early 20s at the time. And he spent about a half a year over there coordinating and deciding how to rebuild the best that he could, knowing that someday another earthquake would come through. And so we just got really educated as a family on Haiti back then. And so we've kept an eye on it. And we were actually down in Florida enjoying the beach when we heard about the August earthquake that took place. And so, you know, knowing that people like you went is just so reassuring. And like Lynn said, everybody can do something. We're going to talk about a website here in a little bit that you can go to. And if you donate $5, $10, $100, whatever the Lord places on your heart, know that that money is going to an amazing cause, and you get to be part of the blessing of what's taking place on the rebuild. So, Dr. Dominguez, we'll get right into it. And can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got involved in medical mission work?
All right. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for having me on your show. I appreciate that.
Yes.
And I do whatever my daughter says anyway.
Yeah, you have an amazing daughter. We're going to talk about her in a little bit too.
Excellent. I guess I served in the Army Reserves for 20 years. And after I retired, which was about in the early 2000s, I was looking for some way to serve, you know, to kind of replace my Army time and find some other way to serve. So I started looking into doing some mission trips. And I went with the Rainbow Network to Nicaragua. I went about 4 times with them. They do a great job. And they're here in Springfield, Missouri as well. And one of my partners, William Moore, is on the board there, and I got involved with him, and I had some fantastic trips down there. The problem with those trips was that as I served as a doctor there, of course, it was mostly primary care stuff, and I'm a surgeon, and I can do some of that, but that's not really what I'm good at. So anyway, so I did enjoy that time. And then I got involved in Haiti from a friend. It kind of should I tell my
Yeah,
long story?
yeah, that'd
It's
be
a little
great.
bit of a long story, but sometime around maybe 2009 or 2008, I have a friend that I do running with, and he's a fine Christian man, John Roberts in Mountain View, and he goes to Haiti once a year and leads groups up into the mountains and does primary care stuff. And every time we'd go running, he'd say, "Oh, you need to meet this surgeon, Dr. Bill Tenahoff. He's in Haiti. He goes there once a month for a week, and he does great work there." And he kept telling me about him. Every time I'd see John, he was telling me about Dr. Bill Tenahoff. And so, well, then I said, well, okay, I'll call him. So I called Bill. They call him Dr. Bill in Haiti. And I talked to him, and he told me about Haiti and what he did there. And at that time of my life, it just really wasn't the right time for me to go to Haiti because it wasn't super safe. And I just didn't feel like it was the right time. And God wasn't really calling me to go do that at that point. So fast forward maybe 5 years later, I was with John Roberts again, and he was telling me that Dr. Tenahoff or Dr. Bill had developed cancer, a kind of a weird cancer called pseudomyxoma peritoneae. And there's not a lot of places in the country where you can get that treated. And so he was telling me about it and what he was going to be doing and so forth. And this was, like I said, 5 years. It had been 5 years since I talked to Bill. And so anyway, a couple weeks later, my home phone rang, which we weren't using a lot of the home phone except for when I'm on call. And the caller ID said Bill Tenahoff. And I said, well, I looked at the phone, I showed it to my wife, and she said, well, answer it. He has cancer. And so I answered it, and I said, hello. And then he said, hello. I said, Bill, this is Jose. You called? And he says, no, I didn't. And so I call that the butt dial from God. And then so we started talking about his cancer and that he was going to go to University of Pittsburgh and have what's called cytoreductive surgery, where they open the abdomen and get all as much of the cancer out as they can and put hot intra-abdominal chemotherapy in his belly, and that he was going to have that. And he was telling me about that, and he said, yeah, I'll probably go to Haiti, 4 to 6 weeks later. And I just said, I'm coming with you. And I committed to go with him at that point.
I love that God loves us so much that he will put a butt dial in there to connect people if that's what it takes.
And it worked. And that was in 2014. And I've been probably 8 or 9 times since then. I go once or twice a year, usually twice a year.
That's great. Well, when you went to Haiti this last time, when you went, what kind of conditions did you find? And, did you do work outside of your specialty? And do you have any stories you'd want to share?
Well, so the earthquake happened, I think it was August 14th. Mm-hmm. And I had 2 trips scheduled to Haiti, one in September and one in October. I was going to be setting up a endoscopy unit at the hospital I go to. And at that time, so when this was all happening, 2 other things happened kind of several months before that. There's, there were some plane crashes with some missionaries in it that died in plane crashes. The president was assassinated. And I had this team of people I was going to take in September and October. And anyway, then the earthquake hit, and I texted all the people I was going to take in September and October, and I said, trips off. And then I got to thinking, well, maybe I can just take a kind of a smaller group and go to Haiti, after the earthquake and work at our hospital. Our hospital that we work at didn't sustain a lot of damage. It's a pretty robust building, and there were maybe a couple cracks, once we looked, but not a lot of damage. So it was one of the few hospitals that was actually functional in the area. So on the 14th, I think it was a Saturday. And so I decided, well, I'm going to see if I can get a team together. And so I put a call out to the surgical teams at Cox, and I had, all kinds of people wanting to come help. And the three people I ended up taking, I mean, this was unbelievable that God put these people all together at one time. One is Dylan Nugent, and he's an orthopedic surgeon. And he's one of our trauma orthopedic surgeons. And after he did his residency, he went to Kenya and practiced in Kenya at a Christian hospital in Kenya for 2.5 years. And then he came here to Cox. And then an OR nurse by the name of Gail Dooley came, and she spent 16 years in Papua New Guinea with her husband, who's a family practice doctor at a missionary hospital in Papua New Guinea. And then we had an anesthesia assistant, Sean Apple, who'd done some short-term missionary work in Pakistan. So we got those four of us together, and we finally sealed the deal for the four of us probably Monday. So earthquake happened Saturday, put out all these words, and on Monday, the four of us were pretty much set. And we left on Thursday.
Wow.
and got there Friday. So 6 days after the earthquake, we arrived.
I love how God put the all-star team together for you too. Just what needed to happen to make surgeries happen.
I mean, it was pretty incredible.
How many surgeries did you guys end up doing over there?
Well, when we went over there, the types of injuries, a lot of there's a lot of orthopedic injuries, and that's why I wanted to bring Dr. Nugent with me. And so to do that, you have to have a lot of specialized equipment. And we had recently hired at the hospital in Haiti a Haitian surgeon, Dr. Lamy, and he trained in Venezuela and came back. He's a local Haitian, and he came back to Kais, where he grew up. And so he had been working at our hospital for about a year, but he really hadn't established the orthopedic program yet. And I knew that, we didn't have the right equipment to do what we needed to do. So Dr. Nugent got together some equipment. And I had never heard of this, but there's a signed corporation. I always have to write down what it stands for: Surgical Implant Generation Network. And this is a company started by an orthopedic surgeon, and they make these surgical implants, like rods that you put in bones that are broken, and all the screws and everything that you can use to fix legs, that you can implant in people without x-ray, without having a C-arm x-ray, which is, any hospital in the United States has, but third world countries don't have that. So this corporation supplies this equipment free all over the world. There's thousands of places.
Amazing.
I mean, it is unbelievable. I never even heard of them. And Dr. Nugent knew about them and had used their equipment in Kenya. So anyway, we got together. So Sunday, when he decided to do it, he emailed Dr. Zirkle, who's the head guy there, and on Wednesday had delivery of a complete set of these instruments with like 30 rods, screws, everything you needed. And we got on the plane with 600 pounds of gear.
Amazing. Wow. That's really incredible. So the difference of, well, first let me say, for those people who needed those rods and you guys showing up, I can't even imagine how they felt. I mean, to go from despair and all of that to hope, I just don't think, for people who haven't traveled outside of the US, people just have no idea how good we have it and how good our medical care is and how advanced it is and all of that. I mean, what was it like doing surgery over there compared to what we have here?
Well, the other thing is, before we got there, they had even run out of plaster, so they couldn't even splint casts. When we got there, people had broken bones that were being secured with cardboard and sticks. I mean, it was crazy. But yeah, the hospital, there's a group out of Michigan that really coordinates this hospital, and the hospital's called Centre de Saint Lumiere. It's French, or Creole, and there's a group out of Michigan, and they are very dedicated, and that's where Bill Tenahoff used to, live. He died in January of his cancer, but this group kind of is still alive and servicing this hospital. But so anyway, that group is what takes care of this hospital. So the hospital, they take care of the infrastructure of the hospital. There's 2 functional operating rooms, but we have very bad X-ray capabilities, and we do have ultrasound, and there's 2 general surgeons and 1 orthopedic surgeon, and about 4 or 5 medical doctors. So it's a good hospital for Haiti, and the doctors are great, but they don't have the resources to handle, an onslaught. When this earthquake happened, one of the guys from Michigan sent me this thing that was on Facebook, and it was literally the receiving area of our hospital that was on. Somebody had just taken a video of it, and it was, there's all kinds of people with all bloody extremities and just being wheeled in to our receiving area. So, the doctors and the hospital were completely overwhelmed. They were actually operating that morning when the earthquake happened. And I was talking to, we have Dr. Moise and Dr. William, who are the 2 general surgeons, and they were operating, and they said the hospital was moving up and down about a foot, and then the patients just started rolling in.
Wow. Len, that is just, there's so many things about this. One, the person who came up with the rods that doesn't need the X-ray, like when God puts, something in your path and puts that desire, like how it came out and is still being used all over. And then your friend that started that's no longer with us, that's looking down from heaven, and like the whole mission is still continuing, and everybody's still coming together to help people. That's really incredible. Did you guys just work tirelessly over there the days that you were there doing surgery?
So we operated for 6 or 7 days, and we did 42 surgeries, including, a lot of broken leg bones, tibia and fibula fractures, femur fractures. We operated, every day until into the evening, and, there was just tons of patients to operate on. But the biggest thing which is really neat about this, what we did with this, bringing this equipment, is that while we were doing these surgeries, while Dr. Nugent was doing these surgeries and we were helping him, the 3 of us and the other general surgeons kind of helping Dr. Nugent train Dr. Lamy, the orthopedic surgeon, how to use this equipment. Because when we left the equipment, plus the company restocks the thing. So it's not like we come in, do something, and then we leave and it's not happening. Since we left, they fixed all kinds of other fractures, and the work continues, and he had never used that equipment. And, so it's an ongoing effect.
Yes. Yeah. People can't get enough training, and especially when you're in a 3rd world country, I'm sure they just really soak that up, and, it continues on today. So this website that I have here, servinginks.com, is this where when someone goes there, they can make a donation that benefits this hospital or this medical group? Where does this go, this donation go?
Yes, this would go to what CSL USA is a non-for-profit corporation that supports the hospital in Kais. That's this group out of Michigan.
Okay, so we have that up as a banner, but just in case, it's servingincayes.com. And it's a beautiful website. I went on there and looked, and there is a way to make a donation, which is tax deductible. So if you're hearing this today and you're thinking, how can I get involved? What can I do? Money really helps with everything going on in the medical community over in Haiti. So please look that website up. And I have an address here too. It's listed on the website, but you can mail your tax deductible check to 2632 28th Street, Southwest Wyoming, MI 59519, care of Dan Boerman.
Borman. Right.
Borman, yes.
And the one thing about this organization is 100% of the money goes there. There's no administrative costs. Everybody's a volunteer. There's zero administrative costs.
Absolutely. So I know that I'm going to go give a donation. It's going to be small, but if everybody would give a small donation or someone could give a
Right.
big donation, it would go really far. And to just think about, people don't really take to heart that we have hot water on demand. We have electricity on demand. If you needed antibiotics today, it's easy to get them. But for people that are living over in Haiti, this is literally life and death for them, whether someone comes or doesn't come and the supplies come. So really just amazing that you guys did that. It's awesome to know that a group from Springfield, Missouri went to Haiti and made a big impact on their hospital and their community and all of that. So thank you so much.
No,
Don, there's a lot of heroes right here in the Springfield, Missouri area and Southwest Missouri. Just really a lot of people who make a difference in other people's lives. So we're so grateful because this area, Southwest Missouri, is a very giving area. We have so many charitable organizations that need help. And it seems like, in the last 2 or 3 years, these are extremely changing times, turbulent times with people, every day in my commission work down there and as a state rep the last 8 years, I find a lot of people, doctor, they don't have very much hope. They're losing their feelings of hope and they just feel a lot of anxiety and despair and depression and things like this. And to counter that, people like you and your medical team and all over the country and helping people in our country and around the world is the answer. That's a big part of the answer, is trying to keep people's spirits up and to keep their health up. They got to have mental health as well as physical health, body health, and things like that. A while ago, when you said the Rainbow Network, Dr. Gil Mobley, was that his group?
I don't think that was his group.
Okay, because I know he went over to
he did Guatemala.
Guatemala, yeah,
Yes.
okay. I helped him. I wanted to go on a mission trip. I never could figure out the timing to be correct, but any of those mission trips, I know Dr. Mobley, I gave him some money back then a few times, and medicine, because we had pharmacies. We were able to secure a lot of medicine from drug companies at no cost, and money that we could, and drugs and supplies, medical supplies, that we were able to help him through our DME business and things like that. And so in your medical group, when you did, besides your small group that you had of 4 people, when you do a regular team, is it like 8, 10, 12 people?
It really varies. I go every January with a group that are from Michigan. Most of the time I'm going with the people from Michigan. I will take some people with me from my hospital, from Cox, have gone with me as well. Usually the group is anywhere between, it depends what's going on. Right now they're in the middle of a solar project. We're installing solar in the hospital because we can have a hard time getting diesel to run the generators, and the public power, they only give power for a couple hours, every day. And sometimes then they don't give it for a week, the government. So power is completely, you have to generate it yourself.
That's
so
hard to run a hospital when you don't have power. That's kind of hard to run the hospital.
Very, very little you can do medically without some power. But so anyway, we're in the middle of a solar project, a $200,000 solar project that we just finished getting the last of the funding. And so, they'll take over 10 or 15 people when they're working on that. I think they're going to install that in January and February.
That's exciting.
And except unfortunately, some of the batteries, the lithium batteries we bought, are floating outside of California in one of those container ships.
It'll come off eventually.
Well, let's hope.
Well, what would you say to other people, not just doctors, but other people, like myself, cardiac sonographer? What would you say about getting involved in medical mission work?
Well, there's certainly a lot of opportunities out there. I think probably the easiest thing is through your local churches, or where you go to church. There's always mission groups, and there's other, here we live in the city where Convoy of Hope has its national headquarters, and, there's all kinds of different organizations. It's difficult, and people are always saying, well, why don't you, take me to Haiti, and I've taken some people, but I haven't taken a ton of people because it's not super safe. And I think, so it's like I haven't
It's
taken.
really not a vacation, is it, Doctor?
No, it's not a vacation. There is sun.
And so people need to understand that a lot of these mission trips are just extremely valuable and important. But it's not a vacation. You're a lot of times forfeiting your vacation for the year of going someplace warm like Florida, like you said, but you're doing that because you want to help mankind. You want to help people, and it's just fantastic that you're the type of person that wants to give back and do the things that you can do to help these people that can't help themselves and they don't have the resources to do it. And you guys are doing it. So,
and you probably had to take vacation days.
As a physician, the concept of vacation is a little bit different. I mean, I just not, for the most part, take time off when I need to, but yeah, I mean, I'm not working, at the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, I want to talk a little bit about change gears slightly, and I want to talk about your beautiful, gorgeous daughter, Amanda Woodman. So that's how I met you, through her. So she is a medical esthetician, and she has been helping me with my skin. I joked with you guys that, the only war wounds I came back with was having, some skin issues from the Iraqi sun. And your daughter has just, I tell her she's the difference maker in my life. I see her every 6 weeks for a year. And I think I'm on like my 8th appointment with her. And so, some people go and they think, oh, I'm going to go get a facial. And they think that that's just somebody putting some lotion and some soap on their face. But she works at the Cox Medical Spa, and she's a medical esthetician. And so she can freeze things, burn things, scrape things. Like she just really can do like a deep dive on your skin. So if you are looking for someone, she's booked up. You'll have to get into the year 22 for January. And I know because I've made my appointments, but Amanda Woodman, and I know you've got to be super proud of her because she's just an awesome gal. And I told her, like, you're becoming my friend. I come in here and I talk to you and you take care of me and we spread the word. So we love when we hear word of mouth from somebody. So my friend got referred to her by a hair person, and then she referred me, and then she referred you. So we got to meet you through that.
Amanda is a perfect combination of my wife and I, in that she's sweet, kind, and intelligent like my wife. And she's the kind of person that when she needs to get something done, she'll kick a door in, which she gets from me. So she's pure, for sure, our kid.
And you guys both work at the same hospital, so that's really nice.
Right. Yep. She works in the plastic surgery department at the medical spa. I go over there as a patient, of course, but I don't spend time.
Well, I wanted
there.
I wanted to mention that because it is changing times, and people usually when they think of skincare, they think of women. No, men need skincare too, and so I'm sure you could attest to that.
I usually tell people, I say, yeah, I go to my daughter as an esthetician. I said, I look really good as a 70-year-old because I'm 70 and this is how I look. And they say, are you really? No, they don't really say that. I mean, I look average for a 57-year-old, but anyway.
But skincare is really important, and taking care of like spots that, could be cancerous or whatever. And I'm one of those weird people, Lynn, that I do not get Botox. I don't get that kind of stuff, but Amanda works with me and she gets me taken care of, doing all kinds of different stuff. And I've referred about 3 people to her now too.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Cox, they're just booming around here. They're putting in another urgent care in a couple different places, and it's good to see. So we're so fortunate to have them in the community.
Yeah, I mean, they do such a great job. I mean, there's always, at a lot of places, there's a lot of confrontation between the doctors and administration, but, our administration at Cox does a great job. They're looking after the patients. They're looking after the money to make sure everything is done appropriately and building things we need to take care of the patients here. And I mean, just the response to COVID was amazing. And so I couldn't be more proud to work at Cox Health.
That's awesome. So you're a runner and you do all kinds of healthy stuff too to keep yourself going. Any advice for like a young person that's thinking about being a doctor? I'm always pushing it on my son. I'm like, you will be a doctor or a dentist. It's not as glamorous as people think, but I'm sure you have some kind of advice for people thinking about entering into becoming a general surgeon.
Well, the first thing I tell people is, medical career, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, respiratory therapist, pharmacist, I mean, there's no better job, in my opinion. You get to help people. You always can get a job. It's not like you have a hard time getting a job. You can always have a job. And there's all kinds of satisfaction where you're helping people in your job. So medical profession in general, I tell people it's great. If people want to become a physician, I mean, I think that's awesome. I just tell them, you go to college, and first of all, number one, make some A's, like a lot of them, and be studying hard, and go do things during your high school and undergraduate where you get access to see the medical, field. For instance, at Cox Health, we have the Medical Explorers, which is, I mean, this is a little known fact, but the first Medical Explorer post in the country was started at Cox Health, and back in the 70s. And, our Medical Explorer post has anywhere between 300 and 700 kids in it at any time. And they're going through the hospital and seeing all the different areas. So getting that extra exposure to make sure that's what you want to do, I think is great. And plus that's stuff you put on your resume for when you do apply, and take your studies
That's great.
seriously.
I did not know about that. Now, for someone like myself that's doing cardiac sonography, and I wanted to come into the hospital, have my son, he's thinking he doesn't know what he's going to do. He could apply for that program as a kid to kind of shadow. Is that what that is?
That's basically what that is. It's age 14 to 21. So it's basically high schoolers and early college
That's
age
so
kids.
valuable to get in there and see if they enjoy it and like it, and it's a calling for them. That's great.
It is. The Medical Explorer thing is awesome. And, they have them all over the country, obviously. But the first one was started by Dr. McCorkle, who's a gynecologist at Cox Health. He's an older surgeon, and him and I think 6 friends started this Medical Explorer post in the 70s. And it's been going ever since. I was in the Medical Explorers in 1982 and 83 when I was a senior at Kickapoo, or a junior and senior at Kickapoo High School.
Wow. Now, you said you had military prior service. Did that help pay for your college, being in the military, or were you already a doctor when you were in?
I went to the 6-year medical school, University of Missouri, Kansas City. So you go right out of high school into medical school. And I was fortunate that my parents paid for my school, so I didn't have the military pay. I wanted to join, so I joined when I was a 3rd-year medical student, but they didn't pay for my school.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people the military is a great way if you want to get into being a pilot or a physician or whatever, because they will help with that. And the UMKC program is outstanding. That fast track program is really, really good.
Yep. The military was, one of the best things I did in my life, and I enjoyed it, and I miss it frequently.
Yeah. Well, but you're giving back and you're still doing stuff to help and travel and, bring benefit to people around the globe.
Yep.
Lynn, do you have any questions?
Well, no, I tell you what, this has been fascinating. I just, again, want to applaud you and thank you, Doctor, for doing what you do here in Springfield, Missouri at Cox Hospital. And then whenever you go to Haiti, or who knows what God's going to lead you to do, you may be going to another country that has need. I mean, there's so many places out there, and we all don't know what our next job is going to be, that God gives us assignments all the time and kind of leads us to it. So I think that's great. And I know a lot of friends that have gone through the 6-year medical program at UMKC, because that's where I went to pharmacy school. I worked at the KU Med Center. I was the only Missouri student that worked at KU. That was real rewarding because they do a lot of sensational things at KU. And all their pharmacy students at KU rotate through the hospital. Like I said, though, I was the only Missouri student that got to do that, and then still worked at pharmacy in Kansas City too. And But I may, someday if you hear of a mission trip that needs a pharmacist, I used to run hospital pharmacies, two in Springfield, as well as having my own pharmacies and stuff like that. So I'd be interested in doing that. And I think you're exactly right. For the people out there, parents or grandparents that's listened in today, one of the main things that you can do besides making really good grades, like you mentioned, making sure you make A's, is that work that, volunteer at the hospitals, clinics, whatever you can do, either volunteer or work. Like you said, the Medical Explorers, I knew all about that, and we've sent a lot of people through to that program. But just like my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter is now a sophomore in college in Springfield, and she comes from a background of either doctors, pharmacists, nurses. So a lot of us in our family are in the healthcare, and she had a really good job at Lambert's. It's very hard work, but she makes a lot of money on tips and things like that. She could maybe make $300 a day just on tips. But I'm really proud because she cut her schedule back, because now she's working at Cox Hospital, because she needed to get her hands into and decide, because she just wants to be in healthcare. She doesn't know whether it's going to be a nurse, doctor, pharmacist, or whatever it's going to be. But she knows she wants to do something in healthcare. And I told her, I said, well, and obviously she's not making $300 a day in tips over at the hospital. But but I said, I'm really glad. I'm glad you made an adult decision, and you're still going to have enough money to pay your bills, but you're going to get that valuable experience, and you're going to watch other people working in that hospital, and you're going to decide what you want to do. And because you don't want to make the wrong decision. Yeah. And so I think the things that you made comments on were right on. And
I love how God weaved everybody together. And, if you're wondering today, like, where do I go? God will call you. It might be a butt dial.
It could be a butt dial.
It very well could be. But he will accomplish what he's working when he brings people together. And so I think the first thing is to be open to the possibility of falling into whatever calling that God brings you to. And then when you are willing, then God will make the details come together. And so, just pray for the people of Haiti. They still need your prayers. And thank you so much for just the commitment of going back and networking with all these other doctors. I think that's a big thing too, is the value of a network. You don't really know when that network will come into play. And you're here in Missouri, and a lot of them are in Michigan, but you guys come together for the common goal of helping people who can't help themselves. And there's no greater calling than that. Yeah. So, well, I think we're going to wrap it up, Matt. So if he's ready, Matt, are you ready?
We got a couple minutes left. Hey, well, let's tell them about, make sure that everyone knows how to watch us on different social platforms.
Okay.
I've got my little cheat sheet, but go ahead.
We are on YouTube, we're on Daily Motion, and we're on Rumble. But if you're on Facebook, you're going to go like the Axe Media Group, AMG site. And then that way, every time we come on live on Wednesdays, you'll be able to see us right there. And make sure you tell your friends about our show. Lynn, myself, and our producer, Matt, are all volunteers. And so we do this for the community to bring awareness, to talk about changing times. And so if you have a show for us, or you have a difference maker that you want to feature on our show, please let us know. And my email is mycreativeworkhorse@gmail.com. And Lynn, yours is?
Mine is Lynn, Lynn, Morris, Morris, 2012 @gmail.com. And we'd love to hear your comments, and we will answer and respond, and just send us any kind of message you want to do that. And so, we're live on Facebook and YouTube, like you said, Twitter, Daily Motion, Rumble. We're also on LinkedIn.
All right, be the change.
That's what it means to really dream. 1, 2, 3. Can I get a hoorah from a patriot like me? Can I get an amen? Do I hear a hallelujah? Can I get a hoorah from a patriot like me? That's what it means to really dream.